All right, everybody. Adam here with another episode of the Bowhunter Chronicles podcast. Sitting here in the face-off hunting e-bike booth with Dieter Kochan. He was on here a while back, and you might be saying, like, who is this face-off type stuff? It was stealth e-bikes. Has he jumped ship? Is it a whole new thing for him, or what's going on? And we're going to kind of go through that. We're here at the Michigan Total Archery Challenge. So how's the show going for you? How's the Total Archery Challenge here, Dieter?
It's been good. I've never been here before. It looks like a really cool event. I'm kind of jealous that I'm not out there shooting. And I think I was telling my wife, I just wanted to say the word. I have a knock time, just fancy lingo. But I got to see the hill yesterday because we actually rode a bike right to the top, throttle only. So I had a bunch of people saying, I bet you can't get a bike up the hill. And we were at the top. So it's a good view from up there.
Yeah, and you started off like kind of in a bad spot. They didn't give you a very good piece of real estate. And now here we are right as you walk in, and you really can't miss it. So day one to day two, has there been a difference in what you're seeing as far as interest?
Yeah, we've definitely, we talked to people pretty solid even the first day. And we just had a spot that was kind of a dead end. Nobody was passing by. Right now we got Rendell. Rendell needs his double X coat back. He let me borrow while it was raining. So he's running the Osseo booth, and I didn't know that they didn't bring stuff and sold it direct to people. They just have like one of each in every size, and then you try it on, and then they ship it to you. So I had the double X coat on all day because it was like 50 degrees and I was freezing. So that was that. But yeah, our first spot was we were tucked back a little bit. Not a whole lot of people coming by. They thought it was going to be a good initially, but the liquor control had shut it off where you couldn't walk through there anymore. So they ended up switching our spot. Now we're directly right where you walk in. So that's pretty cool. Today's weather's been a little difficult for the shooters, I'm sure, with it raining most of the day. So we're looking forward this afternoon. It looks like it's clearing up, and then tomorrow should be really nice.
Yeah, and you're going to be right in the midst of the party here. So I think everything's going to be kind of crazy in front of the booth. Now, from a shooter standpoint, it hasn't been too bad with the rain, and the I guess you get to see like the passion of the archery community here. Like in Michigan, guys are coming out in full rain gear, like we're shooting,
Yeah, I was saying I was freezing and needed a coat. There's guys in shirts or short sleeve shirts and shorts, and your buddy had no shoes on. So yeah, it's like a UP party here. So
the face-off e-bike thing. So what's going on with that? You're trying to break into the industry and be, hunting specific. You kind of get your brand established, and now we're changing it.
Yeah. So when I started, I had no intention on building a business. It was, I knew e-bikes. I was going to build my own, some for buddies. And I was just, let's think of a cool name. So it was like Stealth E-Bikes. That's a cool name. And it just started growing to the point where people could latch on to all the positive reviews we were getting online, where anybody could have started a Stealth e-bikes. There was actually a couple different, if you just went on Google, there was a couple that were very similar. So there was some brand confusion, and it was just like, if we continue to build, we need to be able to protect the name, because this is actually turning into something. So it's like, well, we need a name that we can trademark. And Face Off Taxidermy was my taxidermy business that I had started. And so that was a name that, I had personal connection to with the Face Off. It goes back to my hockey days. The Face Off also was taxidermy related. And then it spun into hunting, where it's a face off. It's you versus the animal. It's a one-on-one. You're not competing against really anybody else. It's you against whatever you're going after. And we felt that name just kind of really tied into everything, and we've decided that it was time to make a move before we grew any bigger. And it was a little bit of a risk, and it actually really didn't have a whole lot of impact on sales or people being confused. And the transition happened pretty quickly, and we got some help with Parker McDonald, helped out with the logo. So we're really happy with that. If anybody needs logo work, it's White Hawk Creative. And so we're really happy where we're at now, and things have actually really grown this summer as we transitioned to the new name.
And so last we spoke, we talked about, kind of I don't want to say, I guess, the ambiguity in e-bikes, right? So they say they're 750, they're really this peak watts and amps and all that stuff. And I'm not sure we hit on any of the kind of like the higher end stuff with the belt drives. We did talk a little bit, I think, about the roll off motors, but now you've got some changes to your bikes coming up, and you've got some new frames and stuff like that. But what are you seeing now with these motors, hub motors, and almost like a transmission style stuff here within the bikes?
Yeah, the technology's really advanced, especially in the higher price ranges. So when we started, we were kind of, I think, in the middle price range where, you could definitely spend a lot more and definitely spend a lot less. And our decision was, well, do we chase numbers and kind of go into that lower price range where you can sell more bikes, but I just don't think they can perform the way that we'll call them serious hunters are going to need them to perform, where I know they're going to beat the crap out of them. They're going to want them to climb. They're going to want them to do this, do that. And I don't like selling something and having somebody disappointed. So we made the decision, instead of going down, we were going to go up. We were going to, compete with the Bakus, the Quiet Cats, the Rambos, the big names, and, change our goal to just making the absolute best bike. And fortunately, going in that direction opens you up to different technology that, just because of the cost of the technology, you're not going to have access at the lower price ranges. And just a bunch of things kind of aligned this summer where, we were able to get some contacts where we're actually designing our frames top to bottom, specifically how we want them. And then there was new technology that came out with Bafang released a 5-speed internally geared hub. It's basically an automatic transmission where it shifts on its own and it'll go 30 miles an hour max speed. And you get all the benefits of having a single speed drivetrain where you don't have a derailleur, and the bike automatically shifts with no cables on its own as the speed of the rear cog increases. So it feels like a car. It's really cool when you're driving it, where you hammer the throttle and you're in first gear, and then all of a sudden you'll feel it almost like, somebody pushed a clutch and then it jumps into this other gear. So it's super awesome for hunting because it's a really good throttle only application compared to, like, if you're going to do a lot of pedal assist and you want to be in a specific gear and have a lot of control of, I want to be in this exact gear, then gears like hubs like the roll-off hub you were talking about are perfect, because then you can pick the exact gear, you're in it, you're in it, and it's not going to shift on its own. Compared to that automatic one, it's kind of got a mind of its own where, if it's in second gear, it's going to want to shift into third gear as it gets going faster. So you have less control of how it's going to shift. We're able to get around that a little bit the way we program the display so that if you're in level 1, it won't shift out of first gear. So if you're going up a hill, the last thing in the world you want the bike to do is all of a sudden shift into second gear, and then all of a sudden you're kind of over geared for the hill. So that's why we did that, where you'll stay in gear 1, you can climb the hill. They're geared drivetrain wise, they'll climb with the best of our bikes. Just the gear ratios we're running, most of our gear ratios are between 1 and like 1.17, which is something we really pay attention to. And I don't think, a lot of companies outside of the hunting marketplace, or even in the hunting marketplace, pay attention to, because those gear ratios are what let you climb without having to pedal. And hunters are kind of a unique market where they're not buying bikes for exercise or really to, transport themselves to work or anything like that. They want to get where they need to go, and they don't want to pedal. They don't want to sweat. So They need bikes that are geared to climb hills compared to have a high top end speed. That's where our single speed bikes were really popular, because guys didn't need to go over 16 miles per hour, and they just needed to climb hills and get where they need to be going. And now we able to take the best of both worlds, where we have those single speed bikes, and then with the internally geared hubs, you still get high max speeds and then all the benefits of single speed drivetrains.
So when you're talking about these high end hunters, or the people that your customer avatar, whatever, like, what's the ideal use case, right? Is this replacing a four-wheeler for a guy who wants to hunt further back without because I'm trying to figure out some of these guys, and we'll talk about it a little bit later on, that want these higher speed bikes. It's like, I think we talked about on the last one where it's like, oh, they all these bikes say that they can get to 28 miles an hour or 30 miles an hour or whatever. It doesn't, I mean, why would one person need to go that fast in the woods, or a hunter in that case? And from what you're seeing, and you're talking about, you mentioned Baku, right? And like some of these really higher end bikes, like what sets higher end bikes apart in the hunting field? So we're not talking about now the $500 to $1,500 Amazon bikes. We're talking about now these are specifically hunter targeted, designated bikes.
So a higher cost bike is basically going to have a larger battery, so you're going to have a larger range with your battery. It's going to have a more powerful motor, so it's most likely going to have, in the mid-drive world, it's going to have the 1,000-watt mid-drive motor. They're going to have better front suspension, so you're going to have a more comfortable ride with your front suspension. They're going to have 4-piston Tektro brakes, which are the higher quality brakes, where you can, because at some point you're going to need to brake too. Like, a lot of talk is about, climbing the hill, but at some point you have to come down the hill. So you want adequate braking just for safety concerns. And then a lot of the other technology ends up being displays, and now we're talking internally geared hubs, and the width of the rims, the width of the tires, the racks you start to put on the back that are capable of holding tree stands and different equipment. So it all kind of adds together, and becomes something in that higher price range, which for the most part it's going to last longer and hold up better to abuse. I mean, you can definitely get by with a less expensive bike. Like, you don't have to, but generally that's going to be something that you're going to be able to use on flatter ground, where you're not going to really demand a lot from the motor, where you're going to put a lot of stress on the motor, where things are going to start to overheat and you're going to have problems. So I think, going back to part of your questions about the different types of hunters and why somebody would want to go fast, I think a lot of guys don't need to go fast. Like, Rendell Eric just walked over here to grab the coat. Well, we've been talking about a bike for the last couple of days, and he told me that, he doesn't need anything faster than a single speed. That's what he's going to want, is a single speed bike. He doesn't need to go over 16 miles an hour. The only drawback to our single speed bikes is that if you actually want to pedal with the bike, you're in basically your climbing gear, and you can't move your feet fast enough to keep up. So if you want to get exercise, or you want to take a bike ride with the kids, or you want to, ride with your wife or ride around town, they might not be the best application of that. Where if you had gears to choose from that were more, give the bike the feel of a standard mountain bike with shifting, then that might be a better option for you. So personally, if I had to pick, I'd probably just stick with a single speed, because I don't have to go that fast. And the only time you ever miss the speed is if you're driving the bike down the highway. If you're parking in one place, trying to hide your car, driving down the highway a couple miles, it's nice to go a little bit faster. But through the woods or through a field, you're probably rarely going to go over 15, so you don't miss it. It's just if you're going to do a lot of pedal assist, or you want to have the bike to do a bunch of different things and not just hunt, that having those internally geared hubs kind of give you the best of both worlds.
Yeah, I think that's one thing that I noticed, and and even I would say on the road, when you're going that 16 miles an hour or whatever, and especially if you're loaded down, like you have your pack or you have any other gear on, you're changing where the weight is on the bike. So it's not like it gets out of control squirrely or anything, but on two tracks and things like that, like I couldn't imagine wanting to go any faster than that. But I do see what you're saying about it's like you almost have to have the bike and pedal assist to make it comfortable to ride, just because otherwise you're just pedaling and you feel like you're getting nowhere.
You can't keep up. Yeah.
Yeah. So is there a way, while you're building bikes for the specific climbing and that you have the best ratio for climbing gear, is there like a middle road for a single speed as far as the ratios?
You can gear them a little bit different. Like if I have a customer call me and he says he's not going to be in hills and wants the bike to go a little bit faster, then I can gear it to where it'll be like a 17, 18 mile per hour max, which isn't going to climb as well. But if he doesn't need it to climb, then it kind of gives him a speed where he's going to be able to do more pedaling. He's going to be able to go faster and then get more out of the bike. So you can do different things. You're more limited with the single speeds when you pick the one gear that you're going to want to be in. And then, that's kind of where, as a company, our bikes are different than a lot of other companies, is we've kind of really picked a narrow window of customers that we're focused on, where I'm a hunter and the guys I'm selling bikes to hunt, and so I'm kind of building a bike for myself, and then other people like me are interested in them. Whereas if I wanted to attack a larger marketplace, then having single speed bikes probably wouldn't make the best sense, because they don't fit a wider range of people. But when you look at a specifically small group of guys who are going to use the bike mostly for hunting, then it's a perfect fit where you're getting rid of the derailleur. You don't have to worry about snapping it off on a corn stalk or bean field, tall grass, mud, anything like that. So you're eliminating a lot of the problems that hunters have with the bikes, because bikes were never designed to do what hunters are asking them to do, where nobody thought somebody'd be taking a mountain bike straight through a muddy cornfield and then through a field and down through the woods. So the bikes have to be designed a little bit differently, and that's kind of what we've as a company focused on, is just building bikes specifically for guys who hunt.
So from that end, and building bikes specifically for hunters, and I think a lot of people get down this road, and just like you talked about with single speeds and having less maintenance and all that, playing devil's advocate here with these automatic transmission bikes or these internal hub bikes or any of this other stuff, internal transmission. And we had talked offline here about being able to set the different speeds for different limitations and things like that for climbing and other stuff. A lot of hunters are moving towards a minimalist or a very simplistic approach. We could take it to the fixed blade broadhead where there's less room for failure, right? So when you're adding more electronics into something that's you've built to be simple, how does that play in? Because I know a lot of hunters who just want to go, they just want to kill. They want to go and they don't want to have to worry about, and that's why they build bulletproof things. So adding that, how does that affect, how do these more, I don't know, I don't want to call it complicated, but these more advanced motors and things stack up to that ideology?
No, I definitely understand the question. The simplest design is going to be the single speed, and we've actually made that better this year with the design of our frames, where we were able to eliminate the chain tensioner. And the chain tensioner, most of our bikes will operate without a chain tensioner, but eventually chain's going to stretch enough to where it's going to get a little bit loose. So we were adding chain tensioners just to take some of that slack out. Now we've added that adjustment into the frame, where the frame, you're able to move the axle back to take that slack out and then not have to rely on a chain tensioner. With those new 5-speed hubs, I guess the genius behind those is there's no cables. So you're keeping a simplistic design, and the hub shifts by the speed of the rear cog. And it's able to take a tremendous amount of torque, to where in the past, the rear hubs couldn't handle the torque and were problematic, whereas now they can handle 200 Newton meters, which is more than what the motor can generate. And they're actually designed to work with Bafang's new, even more powerful motor. So you're able to get speed if you want it, because you can take that 5-speed hub, and let's say you don't want to go 30, you can go into the settings and you can hit the max speed at 20 or 25 and kind of pick where you want to be for a max speed, and then you're going to get a lot more kind of flexibility with what you're doing with the bike. But I think our single speeds are going to continue to be the best seller for those reasons, where guys just want a simplistic design, and we've made them even more bulletproof than they were in the past, where because we got rid of the chain tensioner, we could go to an even stronger chain that wouldn't even fit in the chain tensioner. So now the chains on the bikes are basically, they're almost like motorcycle grade chains, where you're probably never going to be able to break them. Whereas that was one thing where people would say, oh, you could break a chain on a mid-drive. The chains are so thick now where they're probably not going to break. The belts are extremely strong. So we're taking a lot of the possible weak spots in the design and making them even more bulletproof, to where guys can take them. And, the last thing in the world we want is somebody to go out in the field and have the bike break down or not perform. And our goal's always been that, guys can take these. They need them to work from, whether it's beginning of September to the end of December, and then they're probably going to be parked for a while. But during that time frame, they need to work. They cannot be broken down. Otherwise, we're going to have some upset people. So that's kind of our goal. Is we know the guys are probably going to put less miles on them than maybe another bike consumer is, but they're going to be hard miles, and they need to work when they need to work.
So one of the other things that we talked about from a use case scenario was trailers, right? So, and I feel like, well, I guess I want to look at it from like the not necessarily like the durability, but like the wear and tear on the bike with pulling a trailer. Because I think whether it's a pickup truck or a four-wheeler, as soon as we have a bigger pack, say, as soon as we have advanced capability to carry more stuff, like a lot of people will carry more stuff. And how does weight and, say, towing a trailer affect the, I guess, wear and tear on a bike, as well as attachment point? Because sometimes you attach them back on the axle, sometimes they're up high. Some people make their own trailers, all these other things. So how does that affect like the longevity of the bike and, all of that sort of thing?
Yeah, trailers have, they're, as a guy who designs the bike and doesn't want them to break, trailers are an additional challenge, just because anytime you add significant weight to the bike, you're going to stress one part or the other. And it's just, if you had a lighter duty pickup truck and you're all of a sudden throwing, several tons of rocks and stuff in a trailer and trying to pull, like you're going to stress certain parts. And the bikes really, in general, aren't necessarily designed to pull heavy weights in trailers. But we know guys are going to do it, so we try to make them as strong as they can and capable as we can to pull trailers. So on all our new frames, there's multiple trailer attachments where you have the high attachment point. It's like the Rambo cart, and then a lot of guys use the Hawk trailer. And then we also address the problems with the low attachment point trailers, where if guys were forced to attach basically kind of those kid hauler trailer type attachments to the lower part of the bike, and we're attaching it to the axle. The axle is probably the worst place for putting a lot of stress on, because you need that to be straight, and you don't want to be putting a lot of weight on it. So we actually put specific mounting holes in the bottom of the frame for low attachment point trailers, and the single wheel trailers, if you've ever seen where they have the 2 attachment points on either side of the axle. So you can run those, which they're actually nice. They take less weight, where they're like a 50-pound rating, but they're really good for turkey hunting, because you could put decoys and your stand, and not your stand, but your blind, and you could haul them there, and they track right behind the bike. Whereas some of the 2-wheel trailers are going to have a wider footprint going down the trail. So there's an application for trailers, and people always ask me what's the best trailer, and there isn't one, which is kind of why we don't really even sell them, because you could have 10 guys and they're going to like 5 different trailers, and we can't stock that many different kinds of trailers. And so we just designed the bikes to accommodate pretty much every trailer on the market, and then kind of warn people that, hey, you can put significant weight, but anytime you add weight to the bike, then you increase the chances of something breaking. And even the bike that you have, I had a customer who called me, and he's was all happy about how much he had hauled. He had hauled two does and his kid on a trailer, and I think he said he had over 550 pounds on the bike. So I mean, they're capable of a lot, but if you did that every day, it's like if you did it to your truck, you're going to end up replacing front ends. And in the UP, where if you put a plow on the front of your truck, you're going to replace your front end probably every year. It's like on an F-150. So it's the same thing with the bike. If you're going to put that much weight, then you might be swapping out your axle or whatever other part. But the motors are pretty incredible when you're dealing with those 1,000-watt Bafang motors, where the motor will not be the weak spot. It's probably going to be your rear hub. And we actually sell an upgraded hub now, where it's an extreme torque hub sold by Ren that we can put on bikes for guys that really are going to expect a lot from their bike with trailers or whatever weight. So we're trying. People create problems for us, and our job is to try to solve them and give them something that's going to meet their expectations and exceed them.
And so one of the things you were talking about too was if guys are pulling trailers, and as you're doing the throttle on, throttle off, you can kind of feel it, and you hear some clicking and other stuff like that. Kind of tell us, like, for like a longevity standpoint of making it easier on the motor when you are towing a trailer.
So it's not so much easier on the motor, it's easier on the rear hub. So the rear hub has a freewheel component where if you're just walking the bike, you can hear these little clicks. And those are, in most hubs, they're pawls that are spinning in there. And when they're clicking, they're just rubbing up against what they normally will engage in when you're actually pedaling the bike. So then once you engage the bike, those pawls hit the slots they're supposed to be in and make it so that when you move the pedals, the rear wheel moves. If you strip out your pawls, then you'll be moving your pedals and nothing's going to happen with the rear wheel. So to make life easier on the pawls, the less time the freewheel is engaging and disengaging, the easier it is, especially when it's under a heavy load like that with a trailer. So if you're able to keep the motor spinning the rear cog, then the pawls are engaged. And if you can keep them constantly engaged, you're not going to have a problem. And to do that, we talked about if you're actually hauling a bunch of weight, you've harvested a deer, if you use the bike and pedal assist and are moving your feet to keep that rear cog moving, you're going to keep the whole system engaged, compared to if you're going on and off the throttle and forcing it to engage, disengage, engage, disengage, then you risk the chance that it's going to be halfway engaged. All of a sudden, a heavy load is produced from the trailer, and then, you could strip out your rear hub. And that's where the new rear hubs are. It's a star ratchet design where it's like two gears that kind of mesh into each other. And it's difficult for me to explain. If you're curious, Google the Ren hub, and that's it's the strongest e-bike hub on the market. And that just uses a different system where it doesn't have those hubs spinning within the freewheel. It has a different engagement system that's a lot more strong. And the other benefit of that is if you're walking your bike, you can hear that little click, 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 click. The star ratchet systems are a lot quieter. So if that is something that annoys you, you can get that hub. Or the other cure for that is if you put your bike into walk assist mode and have the motor engaged, then you won't get that clicking. Because I had this conversation earlier today where it's like, if I was hunting a bedded buck 100 yards away and I was going to walk the bike the last bit, I don't want it to make this noise. Well, you can put the bike in walk assist and have the motor engaged at a really slow rate, but enough to where the pawls are engaged where you're not going to get that clicking noise, and you can get as close as you need to get to that buck bed.
So in that scenario, I mean, wouldn't the answer be like just leave your bike and walk in?
Could be, unless you're trying to hide it. Like if you have to do different things on public land, I guess, but you could ditch it.
If you can't leave your bike 100 yards from you, I don't know. I mean, maybe that's like some
that was the question this morning. So I said, well, this is what you'd have to do.
I mean, because to me that would seem like the answer. Because if you can't, I mean, you'd be able to see it. I think 100 yards away. I mean, maybe not, but I don't know. And so you talk about these like higher caliber hunters, these, I guess, more serious hunters, whatever. And, you do a lot of stuff with Lone Wolf Custom Gear, right? And so now you've got something new coming out with them, kind of in an e-bike specifically, kind of to work along with some of their products and things, correct?
Yeah, so we're releasing, it's basically, it's a Lone Wolf Custom Gear bike. We've partnered with them to design a bike. It'll be kind of built off of our Switchback lineup, where it'll be a similar frame. And then there's going to be some really cool features on that bike where Andre DeQuisto designed the rear rack of the bike to where all the Lone Wolf Custom Gear stands will basically kind of clip in, lock into the rear rack. And then also the sticks will have mounting spots. And the couple other cool things about that bike is working with Andre. I mean, he kind of looked at the bike from top to bottom and told me what needed to be changed. And he's actually a guy who, the clicking bike, the first bike I brought him to look at, I was wheeling it and made that clicking noise. And he's like, that's got to go. I was like, okay, I don't know how to get rid of it. But then I started then I found the Ren hub. And then if you put more grease in it, you can make it quiet. So, and then he has tons of little things where like he's really specific about what he needs the bike to do, where on most of the bikes, the handlebars are 30-inch wide. He's like, hey, we need to make the handlebars 25-inch wide. I want to be able to drive through corn rows. I need the bike this height. So we redesigned and came out with another frame that was a medium height. And then we also looked at where else we could gain some height to make the minimum seat height even lower, was to go to an option to have 24-inch rims instead of 26-inch rims. And then with the rim and tire change, you could gain another 2 inches of minimum seat height. So there's a lot of cool things that came out of that bike. I think people are going to be really excited, especially if you're running custom gear stands. I mean, one of the biggest questions I always get is how to mount your tree stand to the rear rack and to have things that would integrate better. So I don't think there's no other companies on the market that I've seen that are looking at the rear rack as, a transport system for tree stands where everything's going to integrate and really work seamlessly rather than kind of figuring out how to cobble things and make them kind of just good enough.
So from that, like what components are going to be on that bike as far as, we've talked about a bunch of different motors, a bunch of different hubs, a bunch of different, and I believe that it's the bike was here earlier. I think it's going to use that frame where there's different battery capacities and things like that. So as far as specifications, and then how does it stack up against, say, anything else in the market?
So that bike, it'll be available in the 2 frame sizes. So it'll be in a large frame, a medium frame, and then either of those frame sizes you can get with 26-inch rims or 24-inch rims. It'll be available. We wanted that bike to be a special bike where anybody who's interested in that bike can get exactly what they want. So that bike will be offered. You can get it as a single speed. You can get it with 5-speed internally geared hub, or you can get it with the roll-off 14-speed hub. So there'll be 3 options for the drivetrain, with the single speed being the least expensive. The bike will be in a kind of a gray carbon fiber color with their 3-dimensional tree bark pattern in black. So it'll look kind of like an old school tree bark pattern. It'll have that rack. It'll have the front basket. We're working on a couple different options for bow holders. So I think it's probably, as far as I know, one of the first e-bikes that's specifically designed top to bottom for whitetail hunters especially, and then a lot of Midwestern hunting. So we're really excited about the partnership, and we think it's going to be extremely popular with our customers and Lone Wolf Custom Gears customers.
So the question that's going to come up and that's going to have to be addressed here, is as soon as this is available, there's the guys that already have an e-bike or they've already purchased one of your e-bikes, and they're going to say, well, can I get just that rack for my gear? Or you've got some of these vertically challenged guys who are going to say, hey, can I get a bike built? Maybe just one of the Bowhunter series bikes or something like that. Now, can I get it with a 24-inch rims so that it's easier for me to use? So are those things coming down the pike as well, or is it just going to be specifically on this model?
So we kind of started as a custom e-bike business where if guys wanted this, that, or the other, we can make it happen, and we can still make it happen. So with like the 24-inch rims and stuff like that, we can do a lot of the standard bike stuff. We'll kind of address what we're going to do with the rack, if that'll be something that'll be available with or without the bike. It's probably just going to be with the bike right now, because there's going to be more stuff coming with that where, there's unlimited possibilities with that, where, having specifically designed pannier bags and different options that'll incorporate with that rear rack. So some of that stuff we're still kind of figuring out. We know that we'll have bikes available starting in July with the single speeds and the roll-offs, and then the 5-speed hubs will probably be available on bikes in August, and then we'll start building inventory. So, if it's something you're interested in, definitely place your order early, because there's going to be limited availability just as off the get-go, as we're trying to hit that September deadline, to where we know season's starting and guys are going to want their bikes. So we should have all 3 of those drive team available in limited quantities heading into that, and then we're going to start building inventory. But it's kind of a work in process. We have, as of us talking right now, we have the frames built, painted, They're en route right now. We're finalizing the rear rack. And then, we're going to announce the bike and everything kind of with this podcast probably when we're ready to do the full announcement, because I'll actually have a couple bikes next week. And so once we get the bikes and we can actually get the rack on them and get some footage of them, then we'll end up doing the release. But we're excited. I mean, as a company, it's a tremendous opportunity for us to partner with what I'd consider the leader in a lot of the tree stand technology. And Andre, whether he was in tree stands or if he didn't hunt, he's an inventor by nature. So if he wasn't doing hunting, he'd be patenting other things. So just to be able to have access to his ideas and his thought process is a great opportunity for us.
So with that and what we're kind of talking about here as that build up to the season, and when you're trying to hit that magic date, it kind of leads into something else where, you have a job, you do taxidermy, and now you're kind of entering into something that you were going to do for yourself. And now it's kind of taken off and you're doing more and more stuff. And it just happens to be in an industry that you're passionate about, but not necessarily like if you were a professional hockey player and you play hockey every day, that's great. You're not building hockey skates or sticks and not getting to play hockey. How does this work? How is the business life balance relationship going, especially going into this season with all these things kind of moving along really quickly?
It's been good. I mean, I like to stay busy. I'm probably going to cut back and eliminate the taxidermy part of it, where I'm busy with the bikes. And I enjoy doing the bike design and kind of building them and starting a business and doing that. And, I'll probably take on some people to help with some of the assembly and stuff with the rollout. I mean, because we'll see what the numbers are and the demand is. And, we're prepared for a pretty big kind of first push of bikes here. So, I mean, it was a big commitment for us when you start talk about buying, this many bikes and having them ready to go, it was a big jump for us as a company to start, paying those amount of money on the invoices. But it's been good. I've enjoyed it. My wife's here with us at the TAC today, helping out with the booth, and we'll see where it goes. But we're excited, and it fits right in with where my passion is, and I obviously do have a full-time job and doing this, I guess, somewhat part-time, but we'll see what happens.
And so what other events are you doing this year leading up to the 2024 deer season? Like, so if somebody wanted to come, they were planning on, making a trip to an expo or to any event, and they wanted to check out some of the bikes and maybe pick your brain in person or something like that. Where are you going to be over the summer?
So we will be at the Mobile Hunter Expo in Kalamazoo, and then we will be in the Mobile Hunter Expo in Pennsylvania, which is in August. And then we'll also be at the Mobile Hunter Road shows with Cody DeQuisto and that group. And we'll have bikes at those. And anybody, if you order your bike for a pre-order where you can pick it up at the show, we'll give you some free upgrades on the bikes. And then you obviously save on shipping. And then that just gives us a better idea what we need to bring to a show. Because it's tough to load up the trailer with this many bikes or that many bikes. But if we have a good idea what people want, then we can guarantee that we have it and you can get it fully assembled. So if you're planning on buying a bike and you're going to be at any of those shows, message me, get in contact with us, and then we can get a bike set aside and built for you so that we can deliver it there.
Awesome. Well, I really appreciate you taking the time. We're we're seeing people come by, and I'm sure you're like, oh man, I could talk to them or like whatever. But I appreciate you taking the time here in the booth, and it's fun to do these in person instead of, we have the conversations at the shows and stuff like that. But like you said, you're used to doing it in your basement, and it's always after
basement with a bottle of whiskey.
Yeah. Well, I could have taken care of the bottle of whiskey. I mean, I didn't know that was what was necessary, but I really appreciate it. And if people want to reach out to you, what's the best way? Even if they just have questions about e-bikes or anything like that.
So our website, faceoffebikes.com. That's where you get a lot of information. You can see the different models. And then we've basically built the business on Facebook. So if you go on there and get on our site, Face Off Hunting E-Bikes, we try to post fairly often. I think we posted the video of climbing the hill the other day just to give people information about bikes. We understand that most of our people are new to the marketplace and don't have a lot of knowledge about the bike. So anytime you have any questions, you can give us a call. Numbers on the Facebook page, and then our Instagram is Stealth Hunting for the e-bike posts, and then my personal Facebook page is just under my name, Dieter Kochan.
Awesome. Well, I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you very much.